Most gardeners, either throw wood ash straight into the bed or mix raw charcoal into the soil and call it regenerative. Both approaches cause problems. Straight ash can spike pH, lock out micronutrients, and stress roots within just a few weeks. Raw charcoal, on the other hand, can tie up nitrogen and stall growth just when your crops should really be taking off. I've tested both mistakes side by side, and honestly, the results are pretty predictable. Used alone, each one can actually hurt your soil. But when used together properly, they become one of the most effective long-term upgrades you can make. If you're serious about building soil that improves year after year instead of just chasing seasonal fixes, subscribe to Farm Logic. This channel is all about tested systems and real numbers, not just gardening trends. I prepare this blend in a very specific way. For every 10 litres of crushed charcoal, I add about 1 cup of finely sifted wood ash if I'm working with neutral soil, or up to 1.5 cups if the soil is clearly acidic below pH 6.5. That's roughly 150 to 250 grams of ash per 10 litres of char. I mix them thoroughly while dry. Then I add a nitrogen source to charge the charcoal. That can be diluted urine at a 1:10 ratio, compost tea, fish emulsion solution, or even fresh compost slurry. The goal is to saturate the char pores with nutrients and microbes. The mixture should be damp like a wrung-out sponge. I let it sit for at least 2 to 3 weeks. During that time, the ash minerals bind to the carbon surfaces. The alkalinity is moderated. Microbes colonize the pores. What you end up with is not raw ash and not raw charcoal. It's a mineralized carbon matrix. This is where most gardeners get impatient and skip the waiting period. That's a mistake. Here's what happens in a small backyard garden. In a typical 10 square meter plot, I incorporate about 5 liters of this ash-char blend per square meter during bed preparation. I mix it into the top 15 to 20 centimeters along with compost. The first noticeable change is moisture management. Beds amended this way hold water longer but drain more evenly. During a dry spell, plants in treated sections stay turgid roughly a day longer before showing stress compared to untreated soil. The second change is nutrient stability. In a tomato and pepper trial, the blended bed produced about 15% more yield by weight compared to compost alone. More importantly, fruit size was consistent throughout the season. There were fewer signs of potassium deficiency late in fruiting. This isn't explosive early growth. It's steady, resilient performance. Raised beds are where the power couple really proves itself. Raised beds lose nutrients faster and tend to acidify over time. Frequent watering accelerates leaching. In a standard 1.2 by 2.4 meter raised bed, I mix in about 12 to 15 liters of the ash char blend during an annual reset. After 2 seasons, the soil texture becomes noticeably more crumbly. Compaction decreases, earthworm activity increases. Organic matter measurements in one of my beds rose from 3.5% to just over 4.6% without dramatically increasing compost inputs. The charcoal slows decomposition and retains carbon, while the ash minerals support biological cycling. Leafy greens respond differently as well. Lettuce grown in these beds tends to develop thicker leaves and shows less tip burn. That's likely due to improved calcium availability and better moisture buffering. But let's be clear about the trade-offs. If your soil is already alkaline above pH 7.3, adding ash, even buffered in charcoal, can push it too far. Micronutrients become less available. In those conditions, I cut the ash rate in half or skip it entirely and focus on charging charcoal with compost and nitrogen only. Another mistake is assuming more ash equals more fertility. I've tested higher rates at 3 cups per 10 litres of char. Early growth was strong, but by mid-season, micronutrient deficiencies began to appear. Balance matters more than intensity. You're building soil infrastructure, not chasing a quick fertilizer boost. Yes, this concept translates to hydroponic systems. In media-based hydroponics like Dutch buckets or grow bags, you can incorporate aged ash char blend at about 10% by volume into cocoa coir. For every 10 litres of cocoa, I mix in 1 litre of fully aged and lightly rinsed blend. The rinse step removes excess soluble salts. That's critical. Fresh ash in hydro systems can spike EC and damage roots. In tomato trials, cocoa amended this way showed fewer calcium-related disorders and more stable nutrient uptake between feed cycles. The charcoal acts as a buffer. The ash provides mineral reserves that moderate fluctuations in the root zone. Again, the blend must be stabilized before use. Hydroponics is unforgiving if you rush the process. This is long-term soil strategy, not seasonal gardening advice. The reason wood ash and charcoal work so well together is structural. Charcoal persists for years. It becomes permanent architecture in the soil. When you preload it with ash minerals and biology, you're embedding fertility into that structure. By year 2 and 3, beds treated this way require fewer potassium supplements. Moisture management improves, nutrient leaching decreases, roots explore deeper and more evenly. This isn't about copying ancient practices blindly or following buzzwords. It's about understanding chemistry and biology and using waste materials intelligently. Pruned branches become charcoal. Fireplace ash becomes mineral input. Instead of disposal problems, you're building soil capital. If you care about nutrient density, yield stability, and long-term fertility, this power couple is hard to beat. But it only works if you respect ratios, aging time, and your existing soil conditions. If this kind of practical, field-tested knowledge helps you grow better food, subscribe to Farm Logic and share this video with another serious gardener. The more we focus on building soil intelligently instead of chasing quick fixes, the stronger our harvests become season after season.